Monks living with pain for years without collapsing under it, and without using a single painkiller. You see a Tibetan monk sitting on the cold floor of a stone hall, his knee swollen from decades of long rituals and harsh mountain life. The pain is real, sharp, deep, unignorable. But instead of tightening his jaw or bracing his breath, he closes his eyes halfway, places his hand on the joint, and something unexpected happens. His body softens, his breath expands, and the tension that normally makes pain unbearable begins to dissolve. In this video, you'll discover how Tibetan monks treat chronic pain using ancient methods that don't suppress pain but transform the way the body and mind interact with it. Reinterpreting pain as energy in transit, mobilizing it through intense physical techniques, and containing it with a very specific breathing practice designed to stop suffering without numbing sensation. And this matters because most people treat chronic pain with avoidance, fear, or medication, while monks learn to work with pain instead of fighting it. I'm sharing this because I once believed pain was an enemy to escape, until monks showed me the moment you stop resisting it, pain begins to lose its power. But the most surprising part is this. The first step in healing chronic pain isn't physical at all. It begins with changing what pain means. Monks begin by changing the meaning of pain itself. In the West, pain is treated like an alarm, something dangerous, something to escape, something that must be silenced immediately. But in Tibetan tradition, pain is described as energy that has stopped moving, not an enemy, not a threat, a signal. The moment you change what pain represents, the entire experience shifts. The body stops panicking, the mind stops tightening around the sensation, and the suffering, the emotional layer on top of the physical pain, starts to dissolve. A monk feeling chronic pain doesn't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "Where is the energy stuck?" This question pulls his attention away from fear and toward observation. Instead of resisting the sensation, he studies it. He notices its shape, its temperature, its movement, whether it pulses or stays still, whether it expands or contracts. This observation immediately reduces suffering because most of the agony of chronic pain doesn't come from the sensation itself. It comes from the narrative the mind builds around it. Monks remove that narrative entirely. They drop the story and look directly at the sensation as if examining a physical object. When you stop telling yourself that pain is dangerous, unfair, or permanent, the nervous system stops amplifying the signals. The pain becomes smaller, more contained, less aggressive. One of the first things monks do with chronic pain is stop bracing against it. The instinctive reaction to pain is tension, tightening the jaw, clenching the muscles, holding the breath. But tension traps the pain. It freezes it in place. So monks train themselves to soften exactly where the pain appears. If the pain is in the knee, they relax the knee. If it's in the back, they soften the spine. This softening sends a message to the brain. This sensation is not a threat, and when the brain stops interpreting pain as danger, it reduces the intensity almost immediately. Another part of their reinterpretation involves understanding the layers of pain. Instead of treating it as one big overwhelming block, they break it into parts: the sharpness, the heat, the tightness, the pulsing, the pressure. Each layer feels different and behaves differently. When a monk identifies these layers, pain stops being a monolithic force and becomes something he can navigate. This alone weakens its grip. They also observe movement inside the pain. Chronic pain often feels solid, but monks know that sensations are always shifting, even subtly. They follow micro-changes, a flicker of warmth, a small wave, a shift in depth. When the mind sees pain as movement rather than solidity, it relaxes. Movement is easier to work with. Movement can be redirected. Movement can be reshaped. Monks never ask the pain to go away. That demand creates frustration and resistance. Instead, they create space around it. They expand their breath, their posture, their awareness. Suddenly, the pain is not filling the whole body. It's just a sensation inside a much larger field. When the field grows, the pain shrinks. This reinterpretation doesn't remove the sensation. It removes the suffering attached to it. The body becomes less reactive. The nervous system becomes less alarmed. The pain becomes clearer, lighter, more manageable. And once monks have changed their relationship with pain, once it is no longer a threat, they move to the next step. They don't leave the pain where it is. They move it. They use physical techniques designed to mobilize what they consider stuck energy, transforming the sensation through friction, pressure, vibration, and heat. Once monks remove fear from pain, they treat it as something that must move. In Tibetan tradition, chronic pain is seen as stagnation, energy, blood, and heat, trapped in one place for too long. The longer it stays stuck, the more intense the discomfort becomes. So the next step is mobilization, using the body, heat, friction, and pressure to break the stillness that keeps pain alive. The foundation of this approach is a monastic bodywork system called kuknai, but the version monks use for chronic pain is far more intense than the gentle forms shared in the West. It starts with friction. A monk rubs the painful area rapidly with the palm or the side of the hand, generating heat on the surface. This heat is not merely warming, it forces blood to rise to the skin, pulling internal stagnation outward. The rubbing isn't soft or soothing, it's deliberate, rhythmic, and targeted, meant to wake up tissues that have become numb or rigid from years of pain. Then comes pressure, applied with fingertips, knuckles, or even the elbow. Monks press into points around, not directly on the painful area. Pressing the pain itself can make the body tense, so they press the gate points around it. These points act like valves. When pressure is applied, circulation is forced through deeper channels. With each pulse of pressure, the pain starts to shift from a concentrated point to a spreading warmth. And once pain spreads, it weakens. Another technique is vibration strikes. These are not hits meant to cause pain. They are soft, rapid taps delivered with the fingertips or side of the hand. Each tap sends a tiny shock wave through the tissue, loosening the muscle fibers and breaking microscopic adhesions that form around chronic pain. The vibrations reawaken areas that have essentially shut down, restoring movement and sensation where there was only stiffness. Heat is a crucial element. Monks often apply oils infused with juniper resin, mustard seed, or bitter roots. These oils heat the skin deeply, increasing blood flow and relaxing the nervous system around the painful area. The warmth softens the tissue, making it more responsive to pressure and friction. One of the most powerful tools is Himalayan black salt. Heated until nearly too hot to touch, wrapped in cloth and pressed gently onto the area, it extracts coldness from the tissue. A concept that may sound strange until you feel how chronic pain often holds a deep internal coolness, even when the skin is warm. The hot salt draws this coolness out, relieving stiffness and improving mobility almost immediately. There is also the technique of rolling pressure. A monk uses his knuckles to roll along the muscles next to the painful area, creating waves of compression that push stagnation outward. This rolling motion encourages trapped energy to move through the body's natural pathways, breaking the stillness that feeds pain. Breath is incorporated subtly into these physical techniques. As the pressure increases, the monk exhales slowly, allowing the body to soften instead of resisting. This cooperation between breath and movement prevents defensive tension, making the mobilization far more effective. Each of these methods, friction, pressure, vibration, heat, works toward a single goal, motion. Pain that stays still grows stronger. Pain that moves loses its power. And once the pain is in motion, monks use a final tool to weaken it even further. A breathing method designed not to eliminate pain, but to contain it without collapsing around it. After monks have softened the mind's reaction and mobilized the physical stagnation, they use a final technique to weaken chronic pain even more, anchoring it with breath. This is the opposite of what most people do. When pain rises, most tighten their breath, brace their ribs, and try to pull away from the sensation. But monks breathe into the pain, not to intensify it, but to surround it. They treat breath as a container, something that can hold the sensation without collapsing under it. The first part of anchor breathing is expansion. A monk inhales slowly through the nose, allowing the rib cage to widen in all directions. This expansion creates more internal space around the painful area, preventing the sensation from feeling suffocating or overwhelming. When there is more room inside the body, pain becomes smaller, less dense, less sharp. It spreads out instead of stabbing inward. This alone reduces intensity. The breath itself is layered. Instead of taking one smooth inhale, the monk breathes in 2 or 3 small waves, half, then another quarter, then the final bit. This layered inhalation prevents the nervous system from locking up, which is what normally happens when pain spikes. By inhaling in steps, the monk avoids triggering reflexive tension. The body stays open, the mind stays quiet. Pain becomes something he can observe, not something he must fight. On the exhale, monks direct the breath toward the painful area, not literally, but through awareness. They imagine the exhale sinking downward or outward, flowing into the sensation like warm water. This mental direction has a very real physiological effect. When attention moves toward the pain during the exhale, the parasympathetic nervous system activates, reducing inflammation and softening the surrounding muscles. The exhale becomes a warm wave that settles over the pain, loosening it from the inside. Another part of this technique is containment without resistance. Most people either brace against pain or try to escape it mentally. Both reactions create more tension. Instead, monks let the breath form a boundary. The sensation is allowed to exist, but it cannot expand beyond the breath field the monk creates. The pain sits inside the breath like an object in a bowl. This containment keeps the sensation from overwhelming the body and stops the brain from amplifying the pain signal. Monks also synchronize mind and breath. Each inhale brings curiosity. Each exhale brings softness. Every cycle reduces the emotional reaction to the pain. Without the emotional reaction, pain loses its bite. It becomes a sensation instead of a threat. As the breath continues, something subtle happens. The pain begins to shift. It changes shape, temperature, or intensity. These micro-movements are signs that the pain is releasing. Monks follow these movements closely, letting the breath guide the sensation out of its rigid form. Little by little, the pain loosens, warms, expands, then fades. Sometimes it doesn't disappear completely, but it becomes quiet, something manageable, something that no longer dominates the monk's awareness. Anchor breathing isn't about defeating pain, it's about staying larger than it. When the breath is wide and steady, pain cannot take over the entire internal landscape. It stays contained, losing the ability to command the nervous system. And once monks learn to hold pain without resisting it, something even deeper changes. Pain stops being a prison and becomes a teacher. Monks don't escape pain, they study it, they move with it, they reshape it from the inside out. Their relationship with pain is not about endurance or denial. It's about understanding what pain becomes when the mind stops treating it like an enemy. They don't numb it, they don't run from it. They learn to interpret it, mobilize it, and contain it until the body no longer panics in its presence. When the mind stops fighting pain, the body stops tightening around it. When the body softens, the pain begins to move. And when the pain moves, it loses the solidity that makes it unbearable. That's why monks can live with injuries, cold, harsh terrain, and years of strain without collapsing under chronic pain. They don't wait for comfort to arrive, they create an internal environment where pain cannot dominate their identity. Their techniques reinterpreting the sensation, mobilizing it physically, and anchoring it with breath are not mystical secrets reserved for monasteries. They are human tools, available to anyone willing to approach pain differently. You may never live in the Himalayas or undergo their training, but you can use the same principles to stop pain from turning into suffering. Because pain is not just a signal, it's a message. And once you stop fighting it, you can finally hear what the body has been trying to say. Monks learn to live with pain not by suppressing it, but by transforming the way it moves inside them. And that transformation is what sets them free.